All right, guys, today we are going to be reacting to are Americans already living in the Third Reich? I don't know. Let's see what's going on. Make sure you guys subscribe. Let's jump in.
And the Weimar Republic. And it didn't surprise me that that post got a lot of attention and a lot of comments, including a lot of comments saying that I was exaggerating or some sort of leftist loony. But there were also several comments suggesting that I was underestimating the situation and that I should in fact be talking about the Third Reich. And yes, Reich is an acceptable pronunciation in English. If I was speaking German, I would of course refer to the Drittes Reich. So why did I choose to say Weimar Republic instead? Well, fundamentally it's because I was actually referring to a video I made back in 2021 about the January 6th insurrection. At the time, many people were saying that this was Trump's Reichstag fire moment, but I argued that it was probably more like Trump's beer hall putsch moment, something that happened 9 years previously. But I still defend my use of the term here because I genuinely don't believe that we're in Third Reich territory just yet, although I fear we could be close. Crucially, the Democrats are still in a position to get in Trump's way and even stop him. They just haven't been trying hard enough. It's important to realize that the terms Weimar Republic and Third Reich were never official names for the country. They are labels conveniently used by modern-day historians to talk about certain eras in German history, although these days many of them do try to avoid Third Reich because that term originated in Nazi propaganda. But throughout this entire time, in fact, from the 1st of January 1871 until the 23rd of May 1949, the country was called Deutsches Reich in German. In English, this was translated as German Empire until the collapse of the monarchy in 1918, and after that, German Reich. The term Weimar Republic has come to describe the German Reich from the November Revolution of 1918 until the rise of the Nazis, after which it is the Third Reich. But how did the former transition into the latter? The assumption is that people went to bed in the Weimar Republic and woke up the next morning in the Third Reich. The date given for that transition is frequently the 30th of January 1933, which is the date Hitler was first appointed Chancellor. But things aren't quite that simple, and in fact, even after the Nazis came to power, they spent months carefully dismantling the old order and replacing it with the new. Hitler's appointment as Chancellor was certainly the beginning of Nazi rule, but not necessarily the start of the Third Reich. Remember how I said that Third Reich comes from Nazi propaganda? They used it to describe a dictatorship with a single authoritarian autocratic leader and to claim that it continued an age-old German tradition. But the country didn't become a dictatorship the moment Hitler moved into the chancellery. In fact, Hitler's first government collapsed within just a couple of days. There had been an election the previous November which had given the...
Really? So he came to power and in the next couple months, he just collapses. I didn't even know that.
National Socialist German Workers' Party about 33% of the votes. After a few months of political shenanigans, President Hindenburg finally and reluctantly appointed Hitler Chancellor. But since the Nazis refused to enter into any coalition, attempts to form a government failed, and a new election was held the following March. That one gave the Nazis a much better result, but still only about 44% of the vote share. The Reichstag building had just been gutted in a fire that had been started by an arsonist who may or may not have been a communist. It hardly mattered. Using a very dubious piece of emergency legislation, the Nazis banned the Communist Party so that its members couldn't take up the seats that it had actually won. That still didn't give the Nazis the absolute majority that they needed, so they were, after all, forced into a coalition with the German National People's Party. And there were still very powerful parties in opposition. This wasn't a dictatorship just yet. Less than 3 weeks after the election, on the 24th of March, the Nazis used a series of quite dirty tricks to force through an even more dubious piece of emergency legislation, the Enabling Act of 1933. And let's be clear about this. If only the Centre Party had shown just a bit more backbone, the Enabling Act would never have passed. An Enabling Act
So-
is a very
So
crude
basically, I just want to make sure I'm correct here. Although Germany ended up in a dictatorship, they still went through the process of a democracy. They went through the process of democracy. So it's not how they painted, like they went there and took everybody out and you better just be with us. So it was not like that. There was a process and they managed to just play the process.
type of emergency legislation that temporarily suspends certain constitutional protections. Now, there should be very strict limits on what an Enabling Act can actually do, and this was certainly the case in the Weimar Republic. But this particular act very clearly exceeded those limits. The president, had he been doing his job properly, should never have signed it. But he did, and it basically allowed the government to pass any law that it wanted without the approval of the Reichstag, even if that law violated the constitution. Now, this was obviously an extremely important step, but there was still some way to go. Over the next few months, the government stripped the states of their autonomy, banned all other political parties, and started the process of forcing not just government agencies and the judiciary into full compliance with the Chancellor's wishes.
I'm guessing that with this, a lot of these processes, no judges stopped them, right? No judge stopped and said, you know what, that's unconstitutional, you cannot go through that. I don't think that happened at all.
But also private clubs and societies. By September of 1933, Hitler was openly declaring that his party was indeed setting up the Third Reich. And in November of that year, there was another election, but this time with only one party listed on the ballot paper. As the year 1934 progressed, the party continued the process of dismantling the democratic order and cracking down hard on fundamentals like freedom of the press. On the 2nd of August, Hindenburg died, and Hitler illegally assumed the duties of president in addition to those of chancellor. And by that date, Germany's transformation was clearly pretty much complete. Hitler now enjoyed absolute power and was easily able to stamp out the last remaining traces of democracy. And so I look at it this way. In January 1933, Germany was a parliamentary democracy. 18 months later, it was a totalitarian dictatorship. In between those two dates, it was in transition. As for where the USA currently is on this timeline, I would say relatively early on. The administration is engaging in blatantly unconstitutional activities and has severely weakened the democratic checks and balances, but it hasn't destroyed them yet, and they can still be quite effective. So for now, I think that we're closer to the start, and they can still be quite effective. So for now, I think that we're closer to the start of the transition than to the end. As bad as things already are, they're not so bad that I'm prepared to say that Americans are already living in a new Third Reich.
Yo, for real? For real, nah. Nah, man. Yo. Damn, I guess so, man. Hey, I guess so. I guess so, man. I don't... Yo, he might be right. I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't see it, bro. I don't see it, man. Well, it might be right. I don't know. I might be right. I might be right. I don't know. I don't know. I would love... Yo, I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. I'm going to leave it there because I don't want to get, too controversial here. But I want to hear you guys' opinion. This video, man, I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. I'll see you next one.